Deoxys-Normal form has entered the EX raid pool in Pokemon Go. This is kind of exciting because out of all Pokemon currently released in the game, Deoxys-Normal form has the highest attack stat, clocking in at 345 base attack. For perspective, Mewtwo, the OG champion, only has 300 base attack. This might have you thinking, wow, this Deoxys clearly must be the most powerful Pokemon in the entire game. Well, that's not exactly the case. There are some factors working against it. Now up ahead is a clip from my livestream SwagTips where I cover the best counters to the Deoxys-Normal form EX raid boss, as well as its use in the meta, comparing and contrasting it in various scenarios and showing it for what it is. Right now, I don't think Deoxys-Normal form is really worth powering up, but I'll let you be the judge of that. So here we got the counters to the Deoxys-Normal form raid. So this is using all of Deoxys-Normal form's movesets averaged. And you're not dodging, and this is using Ultra Friendship. Overall, I'd say Tyranitar is the best counter to this raid. Bite Crunch, Double Dark, slamming down to Deoxys. And one reason that Tyranitar is even better in this fight than it is against the Mewtwo fight is Deoxys really doesn't have anything on Tyranitar. Its charge moves are Thunderbolt, Psycho Boost. Psycho Boost is a psychic type attack, and Hyper Beam. So two of those attacks, Tyranitar resists. The other one, Tyranitar just takes neutral damage to. So there's nothing really threatening Tyranitar. And Tyranitar has over 30 DPS, which is ridiculously good. You can do a super easy duo using nothing but Tyranitars. In fact, you could do it with level 23.5 Tyranitars, truth be told. So yeah, Tyranitar just generally the best option for this fight. If you want to increase your DPS a little bit, trade some of that tankiness away to increase your speed, I guess, for taking it down. If you really don't want to waste your time with 10 people fighting Deoxys, you're like, I gotta save another 5 seconds or something. Well, Shadow Ball Mewtwo is still really good. I mean, higher DPS than Tyranitar, and because the DPS scaling is so wild for this fight, that is 3 DPS difference between these two, 2 or 3 DPS, which is pretty sizable. That is a pretty big DPS gain, and I'd say for most raids that would be significant, but because Deoxys-Normal is so easy to beat, it doesn't really matter. Just to give you some perspective, this is a tier 5 raid, and all tier 5 Pokemon share the same HP, unless you're Mewtwo, I guess, which got the tier 6 status. But this is a general run-of-the-mill tier 5 Pokemon, so it's got 12,500 HP. So if you divide that by 300 and then you divide that by 2, I think you get 21.8 or something like that. You need basically roughly 21, 22 DPS to do a duo on Deoxys. And the baseline for this graph here is 25. That means super basic counters such as Shift Tree and, Alolan Muck, they're able to participate in a duo. That's how easy it is to duo it. Now, in order to do a solo, you need to get, I think, over 42 DPS, and that's also without the relobbying drag and stuff like that. Just for perspective, a Foggy Weather boosted Gengar with Shadow Claw cannot reach that. So the solo, a little bit out of reach, but if you're above 22 DPS, there isn't really that big of a gain for going for a higher DPS option like Mewtwo or going for a higher DPS option like Gengar. Because you'll beat the raid faster, I guess, for what that's worth, but they'll faint a lot more easily than Tyranitar will. So if you have the choice, if you got choices laid out before you, I'd side with the Tyranitars before siding with the Mewtwo's or the Gengars. Now, if you're lacking these, the 3 Supremo options for this raid, well, there's a whole cluster of options over here that are just fine. And these aren't the only options that are good for the raid either, because, to do the duo, you need over 21, 22 DPS, and the graph is starting at 25 here. So there are a lot of options that can duo Deoxys. So am I going to sit here and say that, options that don't even have that DPS are that bad? No, not really, especially since it's an EX raid. You're probably going to be fighting it with multiple people, more than 2, right? So yeah, if you're lacking the great, then you can, land among the stars here and do just fine. Now you might notice we have Deoxys-Attack form. So I got it kind of highlighted in red a little bit because right now we don't have access to the attack form. It's currently not in the game, right? So the assumption that we had before Deoxys was released was that we'd probably fight the normal form, but then after you beat the normal form, you'd have the option to try to catch any one of the 4 forms at random. So that's what we were like kind of assuming would happen. But the reality is that we fight the normal form and that we can only capture the normal form, which is kind of boring. So I guess when this attack form does come out, then all the EX raids would be, attack form. So then you could increase your chances of getting a good IV one then. So you don't have to constantly roll the dice, I guess. So that is a benefit. But yeah, so right now we don't have access to the the attack from Deoxys, but it is pretty interesting because it does have the highest attack stat in the game, which means it has the highest damage cap, the highest damage potential in the game, the attack form that is. And it also has Dark Pulse, which is super effective to Psychic type Pokemon, such as Deoxys. Another thing that is interesting about the attack form of Deoxys is that it's got crazy stupid low defenses. Like, I don't have it written down in front of me. I think it's like 46 or 47. Like, not only double-digit defenses, but like 46, 47, like crazy low defenses. For perspective, Gengar over here, like the OG Glass Cannon, has I think like 156, 157, something like that. Like basically triple the amount of defense that Deoxys-Attack form has. So Deoxys-Attack form is like super max minned to be a Mega Glass Cannon. And that's why I have this distinction here, lead party position. So party 1, Mon 1. One thing that was coming up a lot for Deoxys-Attack and also Deoxys-Normal form simulations, and the DPS would kind of generally be not that great because like one charge move or even like a handful of fast moves would take this guy out. But at the very beginning of the fight, when it takes the longest for the raid boss to launch a charge move, we were finding that Deoxys-Attack form in the lead position was having this extremely like high potential to do like a ton of damage before going down compared to other Pokemon like DPS spikes that you have never seen before, right? And you can see this here. You got Gengar at like 36 DPS, and then you've got Deoxys-Attack form in the lead slot at 38 DPS. And just to kind of buff Gengar a little bit more, Gengar in the lead position does have a slight increase by like 0.5 DPS. So there is a gain for Gengar. Gengar also experiences this, but Deoxys-Attack form experiences it way more. Like, I mean, he's jumping from 34 to 38, where Gengar is like jumping from basically 36 to like 36.5. So just something interesting to keep in mind for the future here. Deoxys-Attack, not released right now. We don't have it. But when we do get it, it'll have some pretty interesting niches in the meta. But so yeah, now we know how to beat Deoxys. Looks super crazy easy, like anything can duo it. So just how good is it in the Pokemon Go meta? So this is Deoxys-Normal form. Max CP 2,749. And you'll see it's got 345 attack. Rank number 2. Rank number 1 is Deoxys-Attack. It's in the Game Master, but we don't have it. So basically, right now, this guy is the king of attack in Pokemon Go. For a bit of perspective, Mewtwo, the OG Attack King, is only at 300. So this guy's got 45 more attack than that. But defense, kind of holding it back. 115 defense. So that's really low. Like I said before, Gengar has like 156 or something. So really poor defenses. 100 stamina isn't that great either. I guess roping back to Gengar again, Gengar's got 120 base HP. So yeah, Gengar, more tanky than this guy. Let that sink in a little bit for you if you're considering if this Pokemon's good or not. And yeah, these are the attacks that are currently in, and this is how they're currently ranked. Might be rearranging these chairs a little bit in the future. But right now it just seems like Charge Beam plus Thunderbolt is going to be the best set for this Deoxys, because you get, the same coverage, same type of attack. There are simulations against, water type Pokemon or Pokemon that are weak to electric, where Zen Headbutt actually comes a little bit ahead of Charge Beam. So you got to keep that in mind. And then there's Zen Headbutt and Psycho Boost, and I think I might knock this down to like B, to be honest, because there's a lot of simulations where Thunderbolt is outperforming Psycho Boost against targets that are weak to Psychic. So yeah, it's kind of really bad there. And then as far as the other movesets, you may as well pass them up. So you might be thinking, well, what's going on with Psycho Boost? Isn't that its like signature move? Yeah, so Psycho Boost is a 2-bar charge move. It's got 70 base power, which is already kind of like, okay, that move's probably not that good. 70 base power. All right, what's the cooldown, right? Well, the cooldown's 4 seconds. So 70 base power is bad enough, but 4 seconds, that is insane. Like, we were pretty sure. Like, the Game Press crew and I, we were going over the stats and everything, and we were kind of holding our breath because we're like, man, they gotta buff this. There's no way they're gonna release it with 4 seconds. But they did. It's Deoxys' signature move, and it's complete garbage. Alright, so then as far as comparing Deoxys against other electric-type attackers, I think a good place to start is the DPS TDO spreadsheet. And yeah, you'll see that for DPS, like highest potential, attack forms popping up all over the place. But let's take a look at it against like water-type Pokemon. So measuring it as like an electric-type attacker. And just to keep it simple, let's click Best to sort them. So yeah, so you'll see here against water types, so a Pokemon that is countering water type Pokemon, so electric and grass, basically, you'll see that Deoxys-Normal form does have the highest DPS potential of all electric types in the game. Raikou capping out at 22.17 incomprehensive DPS. So that's like pretty big. But then you kind of bring your eyes over to the next column, total damage output, which is effectively tankiness, and that's like crazy bad. So like Raikou and Deoxys, you could kind of consider them to be neck and neck in this vacuum scenario. Just 1 DPS difference. But as far as TDO goes, that's like miles. That is just massive. And then you got Attack Form over here with the highest neutral DPS going on. Holy jeez. And that's like 100. So that's like stupid bad. Right, so if you sort by DPS times TDO, which is like a way to figure out the general goodness of a Pokemon, yeah, Raikou, way higher. Deoxys, not even rating here. It's like, where'd he go? Is he on page 2? No, he's not on page 2. Oh gosh, now we got the Blissey. Like, and if you're not better than DPS times TDO Blissey, then you're pretty bad. So, yeah, Deoxys, normal form, kind of a super glass cannon here, but does have the highest potential DPS for electric types. So that's pretty exciting. Let's take a look at versus fighting types, because I mean, it still does have crazy high stats. So even though Zen Headbutt is kind of bad and Psycho Boost is really bad, it's still a really high attack stat Psychic type Pokemon. So where do the chips fall? And we'll go by DPS again. So you got the Deoxys-Attack form again, highest damage potential of all Pokemon with Psycho Boost and Zen Headbutt. So that's insane, 26. And when the future comes where we finally have Deoxys-Attack form, I'll spend a little bit more time kind of like pulling down this guy's hype a little bit, because this is kind of insane. Because we got Mewtwo here, 23. So that's pretty massive as far as the DPS gain. But the normal form with Psycho Boost is like, I don't know, as good as Espeon, as good as Rayquaza, in a vacuum here, which, when you consider the TDO, which is half of Espeon's, so Espeon's already considered to be like a glass cannon, and this is half the TDO, like half the tankiness, basically, of Espeon. Well, that's pretty bad. Another thing that's a little bit telling, if I uncheck the best, then you get all the movesets for the Pokemon, and you'll see that Deoxys normal form here has the 21.4 DPS, and when you click on page 2, you get Deoxys normal form with Thunderbolt, which is 21.1 DPS. So you can see here that in this vacuum scenario, comprehensive DPS, TDO, Thunderbolt is like basically as good as Psycho Boost is. So just to give you an idea of just how terrible Psycho Boost is as a charge move, I wonder if the animation's like really cool looking or something. Maybe we could take a peek at that a bit later, but yeah, this is looking pretty bad. That was a clip from my live stream SwagTips. SwagTips streams every Tuesday, typically at 7 p.m. Central Time on the Twitch channel SwagTips. If you have any questions on this content, comment below, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you like this content and you want to see more like it, well then hit that subscribe button. SwagTips. Odds of getting a good IV one, since what the fuck? Some big old beetle guy flying in my house. Yeah, you stay over there, beetle guy. It's Deoxys! He's